Okay, so this week's Parsha is Parshat Yitro. And I'd like to focus on the Aseret HaDibrot today. Right? We might have done this before about the structure, but before we get there, there are just some I think, interesting and important points to make. The Aseret HaDibrot, or let me say the Sinai experience, is certainly at the very foundation of Judaism. The very foundation of Judaism is the Sinai experience. As we've mentioned before, every religion needs to have some sort of a revelation experience. Meaning, a religion is a belief in God. So we're here, and God is there, or wherever a religion believes it, he, she is. So how do we over here know what this God wants of us? So every religion needs to have its revelation experience. Whether it's Muhammad ascending to the heavens, whether it is the 12 disciples hearing what it is, this message, whether it is, what's his name? The Mormon fellow, Smith, John Smith. John Smith. Well, whoever it is, going out for a hike, encountering these plates with an obscure language which he understood, which told him to start the Church of the Latter-day Saints, which was a tremendous break-off from Christianity at large. And no one else ever saw those plates. That's what always amazes me. Right? You know, how do you try that on Jews? Try that on a bunch of Jews. I saw these plates, and therefore we're starting a new religion. Where are the plates? Oh, they're gone. But believe me, I mean, try that on Jews. I don't know. Whatever the case is.
But don't we know that too? Ours are broken and hidden away. We don't know where they are.
Let's hear the difference.
Oh.
Every religion has its revelation experience. Because otherwise, how do we know what it is that this God of ours wants us to do? What is unique about Judaism is that we were all there. So I'm not telling you what I found, and no one else can find it now. I'm not telling you what I heard when the word came down to me. I'm not telling you what I heard when I ascended up to the heavens and heard it. The entire nation was there for the Sinai experience, for this connection with God, for this revelation. So I'm not telling you what I heard, what they heard. We all experienced it. And that is where Judaism stands unique. And that is the Sinai experience. We often say we received the Torah on Mount Sinai. However, right, that's often misunderstood, that Moshe came down, carrying a nicely written Sefer Torah, and everyone said, "Oh, Zot HaTorah She'asa Moshe," right? No, that's not exactly what happened, right? The Torah was completed. There are different opinions. Was it written in piecemeal all along and then completed, or was it written completely at the end? But at the end of Moshe's life is when the Torah, when Moshe wrote the Torah, right, from the mouth of Hashem, from the mouth of Hashem, that the Torah was written. But the experience that set us on the course of being the Jews, this nation, That is Har Sinai. That is Mount Sinai. And that is found in this week's Parsha, the name of which is Yitro. And who is Yitro?
Father-in-law.
The father of Moshe, the priest of Midian. Right? On one of the WhatsApps. On one of the too many WhatsApp lists that I'm on. So someone sent me, why did Yitro have 7 names? Right? Yitro had 7 names, we're told. Because he had 7 daughters. He had to take out 7 mortgages under different names. Okay? But Yitro, again, Yitro was the Kohen Midian. He was the priest of Midian. He was a priest. Right? And we hear about Yitro is that he had researched and experienced every type of idolatry and had rejected them all. See, he was their spiritual leader who said, forget about it. This is all wrong. And he was excommunicated. That's why when his daughters went to the well to draw water, they were being chased away. And Moshe was there that time, and Moshe saved them. And they came back faster than usual. He said, why so fast? They said, Ish Mitzri, this Egyptian man, helped us. Invite him for a meal, which they did. Ended up marrying Tzipporah. Yitro ended up, of course, becoming part of the nation of Israel. So why would we say that this ground zero point of the nation of Israel, why is it in the Parsha of Yitro? Of all people.
Why is it named Yitro?
I'm sorry?
Why is it named Yitro? It should have been named the 10 Commandments.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. When I say the ground zero, I mean the center point of Judaism. The Parsha almost always begins with one of the first few words. And it's Vayishma Yitro, Yitro heard. Well, let's start. Okay, let's start with that. And then we'll come along. Someone want to lead off for us?
וישמע יתרו כהן מדיין חוטא משה כל אשר עשה אלוהים למשה ולישראל עמו כי הוציא השם את ישראל ממצרים ויקח יתרו חוטא משה ציפורה את משה אחר שילוחיה ואת 2 בניה אשר שם האחד גרשום כי אמר גר הייתי בארץ נוכריה ושם האחד אליעזר כי אלוהי אבי בעזרי והצילני מחרב פרעה ויבוא יתרו חוטא משה ובניו ואשתו אל משה אל המדבר אשר הוא חונה שם אמר האלוהים.
Beautiful. Amy, and you have your glasses.
Sure, I do, yes. Jethro, the minister of Midian, the father-in-law of Moses, heard everything that God did to Moses and to Israel, his people, that Hashem had taken Israel out of Egypt. Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, took Zipporah, the wife of Moses, after she had been sent away.
She was sent away because Moshe was going down into Mitzrayim in order to start to deal with Paro, and he didn't want to bring more people in. So now the father-in-law brought the wife of Moshe and her 2 sons.
Of whom the name of one was Gershom, for he had said, I was a sojourner in the strange land. And the name of the other was Eliezer, for the God of my father came to my aid, and he saved me from the sword of Pharaoh.
One more.
Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, came to Moses with his sons and wife to the wilderness where he was encamped by the mountain of God.
Good. It's called the mountain of God because of what will soon happen over there. So the Parsha begins with Yitro, Vayishma Yitro. So why is the Parsha titled Yitro and not Aseret HaDivrot? Because the Parsha is always given the name of one of the first words there. Right? And that's why the Et Hanan, which has Shema in it, is not called the Parsha of Shema, it's called Parsha of Et Hanan. Vayishma Yitro.
What did he hear?
Yitro heard all that God had done for Moshe, about the whole Exodus. Now, if you look back for a minute, in last week's Parsha, we had the Az Yashir, the song that Moshe sang by the sea after the miraculous redemption. And there we have a pasuk which says, look on page 378, 379, verse 14. Well, let's go back to 13. With your kindness you guided this people that you redeemed. You led with your might to your holy abode. People heard. They were agitated. Terror gripped the dwellers of Philistia. Then the chieftains of Edom were confounded. Trembling gripped the powers of Moab. All the dwellers of Canaan dissolved. Right? So what do we see is happening over here? Dov, it's distracting when you're talking at the same time. Okay? Especially when we have a larger group like this. Right? So what do we see is happening over here? Everyone heard. All the nations heard. So what's by Yishma Yitro? Yitro heard? What's unique about Yitro? Everyone heard. So Rashi says something very interesting. Rashi reads, Vayishma Yitro. Vayishma Yitro, Mashmua Shama Uba. What did Yitro hear and come? Kriyat Yamsuf, the splitting of the sea, Umelchemet Amalek, and the war with Amalek. Rashi is adding two crucial points over here. One of them is a single word that he asks. Mashmua Shama Uba. What does Uba mean? And he came. What was unique about everyone heard? But how many times do we read something and then we, good morning, and then we just go on with our life? Right? Oh, that's fascinating. And now, oh, what time is this? What time is that? Oh, I have this meeting, that meeting. Right? Yitro was unique. Shama Uba. He heard and he made sure that it would change him. He didn't just let it, we say, go in one ear and out the other ear. Shama, he heard, Uba, and he came. What was that? Kriyat Yamsuf Umilchemet Amalek. The splitting of the sea and Amalek coming and attacking us afterwards. Let's hear the juxtaposition of those two things. The splitting of the sea, which everyone heard about. Most people did nothing. But what did Amalek do? They attacked. In other words, Yitro saw the disconnect that people can have. There's one level of, right, in one ear, out the other ear. Right? Not acting on it in a positive way. But then there could be this degree of disconnect that I see, I hear about all the miracles that God did for his people. So what's my recourse? What's my reaction? I'm going to attack them. Yitro saw there could be this incredible disconnect between what we see, what we understand, and what we do. Yitro came, and Yitro joined the Jewish people. One of the reasons he's given this name, well, let's think else. Why would the Parsha of the Aseret HaDibra, the Ten Commandments, be here in this Parsha titled Yitro, Jethro? What does that show us, my friends? What would you say, Ateret?
I just said, wow.
What would you say?
I don't know. I
We
don't know.
accept other people from other walks of life.
Okay. To me, that's a very powerful statement. I thought that was your wow.
It's universal. No, just
Yeah.
wow for the question. It's
Yeah.
like something I'd never thought about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That our foundation of our religion is found in the Parsha that is titled by the name of a convert, of someone who came to join us.
Can you repeat that? What did you say?
That the title of the Parsha, which contains in it the very foundation of our nationhood, of our belief, of our being, of our peoplehood, is titled by the name of a convert.
But it's even stronger than that because he's not just a convert. It's like the Pope or
Yeah.
Muhammad.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not just
right.
some guy who decided to convert. And then it even says, I mean, the Parsha is not called Kohen Yitro, but I mean, it's specifically the very next word that says Yitro is
The Kohen Midyan.
and
Right,
Thank you.
it's not
Right.
hiding it.
right.
It's like
The ex-Kohen Midyan.
Pope from
Yeah.
the
Right,
Vatican.
and it's so interesting, right, that at this point, I think calling him Kohen Midyan is like a badge of honor. You know, like you would think, right, why mention his idolatrous past? Well, in fact, with what he became, his idolatrous past ends up being a badge of honor. That with all of that, and the fact is he was a seeker, he was a searcher. I mentioned before, the Midrash teaches that he examined, he tried all of the different idolatries of the world. See, he was a seeker. That's a positive thing. That's a very positive thing. There's a very interesting Midrash that says that he wanted to make a deal with Moshe, that you raise your first son to God, I'll raise the second son to idolatry. Right? And Moshe didn't agree. Now, the whole request seems very strange. Hadn't he rejected all of that? So why would he want to raise a second son, one of Moshe's sons, one of his grandsons, to idolatry? And the explanation that's given is that it's a very telling one. He came around after seeing the bankruptcy of everything else. See, he felt that he was in a stronger position than everyone else. See, he wanted one of Moshe's sons, one of his grandsons, to go through the same odyssey, that same course. Let him experience the other idolatries and see how empty it is. And that way, when he connects to Judaism, it'll be that much stronger than the Hamonam, than the general populace, than everyone else. And Moshe's response was, not a good idea, meaning, you're right, but you're wrong. You're right that when a person does come around, they have an even stronger connection, but we don't, l'chatchila, we don't set out on that route. But you're right. There is a certain connection that can be gotten when a person comes around. And that's a point that I make very often. We each need to take all of our experiences, some of them that we're proud of, some of them that we might be less proud of. But all of that together makes us who we are and gives us a unique perspective and gives us a unique connection. See, he's referred to as Yitro of the Kohen Midyan, but the essence of Judaism is here in a Parsha named Yitro, named for a convert. Right? And to me, that's an overwhelming reinforcement of what the Torah says in so many places, v'ahavtem et hager, right? Show love to a convert. Ki gerim hayitem. Remember what you went through as being an outsider coming in, and make sure that you show that sensitivity. Yes, Dov.
Isn't it that Hashem loves that first step out the door towards shul?
Sorry?
That first step out your door towards going to shul. Hashem loves that very much. Shows an
Okay.
intent. So here he took that, but he went pretty far to go here.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to page 406, 407, to the Aseret HaDibrot. Now, there are many Midrashim on the letters of the Torah. And the letters of the Torah, the letters of the Aleph, Beth, in the Midrash take on a life of their own. Right? Very, very famous Midrash that I might have shared before. But I saw something last night, which was the first time I ever saw it, and I was fascinated by it. You know, a classic Midrash, the Torah starts with which letter? Bet. Right? What should it start with, you would imagine? Aleph. Right? So the Midrash says that Aleph came, according to one Midrash, Aleph came and complained. Hey, why did I get pushed aside? Right? And as I like to say, at Sheva Brachot, or at marriage-related events, beautiful Midrash, so Hashem said, Bet, the letter Bet, is Baruch, blessed. The letter Aleph is Arur, which means cursed. Bet means Baruch, blessed. Aleph starts the word Arur, cursed. So therefore the Torah has to start with Bet and can't start with Aleph. But don't worry, because you'll get to page 406, and the Aseret HaDibrot begin with which word? Anochi, with the letter Aleph. So don't worry, Aleph, you'll get started, you'll get your compensation by the Ten Commandments. That's the Midrash. And it seems so strange, because granted, Bet starts the word Baruch, Bet also starts the word Bechi, crying. Aleph starts the word Arur, cursed. Aleph also starts the word Ahava, love. Emet, truth, right? There are lots of good Aleph words. I'm sorry? Yeah, Elokim, yeah, lots of good things, right? And if Aleph is so bad, so why is it okay over here by the Aseret HaDibrot? It's a very, very beautiful explanation. It was as follows. It's not that Aleph starts the word Arur, and Bet, cursed, and Bet starts the word Baruch, blessed. Bet is two.
Right.
Two, that is a blessing. Two people working together, right? The sum is greater. Sorry?
That correlates to the number two?
Yes, that's the numerical value of that, right? So we say the sum is greater than just the individual parts that add up to it, right? That's what Bet is. Aleph is one. Me, standing alone. All about me, right? That is inherently cursed. Bet is inherently blessed. That's why the Torah needs to start with the Bet and not the Aleph. However,
But then why would the Ten Commandments?
so why the Ten Commandments? So the Gemara says, Anochi, Aleph, Nun, Chaf, Yud. Notrikun is a way of deriving from a word. Each letter starts its own word. So you have a word, Anochi, Aleph, Nun, Chaf, Yud. You have a word starting with Aleph, a word starting with Nun, starting with Chaf, starting with Yud. The Gemara says Anochi is the notrikun for Ana, Nafshai, Katavit, V'yahavit. Aramaic regard says Ana, I, Nafshai, my nefesh, so to speak, my soul, so to speak, my essence, Katavit, Katavti, I've written it, V'yahavit, Yahavit, and I have given it. The Aseret HaDibrot or we're about to start now, is God giving himself over to us. That revelation that we began with, but on this intimate, intense level. So when the Aleph is a complete giving over of oneself to the other, the Aleph is not all about me. The Aleph is, what can I do for you? That's when that Aleph turns into a bracha, into a blessing. So that's my favorite go-to Sheva brachot. Rabbi, will you say a few words? Oh, I didn't know I was going to talk. Yeah, sure. That's my go-to drush. But I saw something incredible last night. The Midrash says that not much of a sofa. The Midrash said that when it came to the Aseret HaDibrot, to the Ten Commandments, so there, I'm sorry. That by creation, it was all the different letters that came forward to advocate to start the Torah. All of them but Aleph. Why was Aleph? So Hashem said, Aleph, ma'itcha. What's with you? Why aren't you advocating? And Aleph said, because everything else is so numerous, right? Tov is gematria, numeric value of 400, 300, right? Rei, Shin, Kuf, right? I'm just one.
But you need one to start.
So Hashem said, you will start the Aseret HaDibrot. Meaning, in the world, there's this dazzling array of the world around us in such multitudes, such multiply, and there's just so much. But in fact, it all comes down to one. It's all coming from Hashem. The Aseret HaDibrot, right? The Aseret HaDibrot, the Ten Commandments, is when we realized and we encountered this absolute unity, this oneness, that everything that we see, all the events that take place, everything that exists, actually is rooted right back at Aleph. There's that one singular source. And the Maharal says something fascinating. I'm not much of a sofer, but let me try a little better than what I did before. The letter Aleph, okay, in the way it's written in the Torah, Aleph, it's actually a Yud, and a Vav. Okay? Yud, Vav. What's the numerical value of Yud, Vav? 10, 6. 26. How many letters are there in the alphabet?
2 plus
Yes.
4.
Well, okay, Aleph, Bet, Vet. 2 different letters, right? Pronounced differently. Gimel, Dalid, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yud, Kaf, Chaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samach, Ayin, Pei, Tzadi, Kuf, Pei, Fei, good. Tzadi, Kuf, Reish, Shin, Sin, Taf.
What about the Sufiot?
Sophiyot have the same sound. It's just written differently. Sophiyot have the same sound. There's the menatzfach, right? 26. So the Aleph contains within it everything that's going to spread out from there is all in that Aleph.
Does it
So-
also equal Yud Kei Vav Kei?
Good. And 26 is the gematria, is the numerical value of the God's name that we don't pronounce. We say Hashem, or we say God. Even when we're davening, whether it's written Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud, or it's written Yud, Hey, followed by a Vav, followed by a Hey, we never say that Yud, Hey, followed by a Vav. On Yom Kippur, we speak about in the davening of Musaf. On Yom Kippur, we say V'Kohanim Ai. When they would hear the Shem HaMeforash, when they would hear the explicit name Yotzei coming out, Mipi Kohen Gadol, from the mouth of the Kohen Gadol, Hayu Korim, they would lie down flat on their faces and say, Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto. Blessed is the name of His glorious kingdom, Le'olam V'ed, forever. Right? But we don't say that name. But and because realize for a moment that all the other names of God are borrowed terms, right? Elohim means strength, powers. Oh, so God is Elohim Emet, the true power. Everything else is a borrowed name. Yud Kei Vav Kei is not a borrowed name. It doesn't mean anything. We've discussed it before, a combination of different words, right? But that is the God's name that we don't say.
But why?
Right? I'm sorry?
Why? Why can't we say
Why don't we say it? Because there's a certain, a Kohen Gadol, a high priest, there's a certain holiness to it that we don't want to cheapen it. A Kohen Gadol, the high priest, on Yom Kippur, in the Beit HaMikdash, yes. But until then, right, from then and until then, it's not,
We're not
It's-
holy enough.
yeah, we're not there, right? And, in a way we need to realize that we're here and God is there. With all the intimacy and the ava that we feel, right? The idea of a kippah is that, us stupid men need constant reminders, right? And the reminder is that there's a separation between my thinking and God's thinking. My head and the heavens above, right? So whenever I start to say, well, why is God... I remember the kippah. Hey, let's keep things in perspective. My understanding, God's understanding, sof pasuk, right? End of story, right? So that's the Aleph that begins it all. Now, I wanted to do, the time that we have left, I've touched upon this before. There's a beautiful, beautiful teaching from Rabbi David Foreman, which he calls the hidden structure of the Ten Commandments. Because what are the Ten Commandments? Belief in I am Hashem your God, no other God. Don't say my name in vain. Right? Shabbat. Honor your parents. The first 5 are between man and God. We'll deal with that in a second. The other 5 are don't murder, don't commit adultery, don't kidnap, don't give false testimony, and don't covet. Right? So we have 5 between man and God, 5 between man and man, and that itself packs a very important lesson, right? That if a person says, I'm just going to be a really good person, I'm just going to treat everyone really properly, kindly, respectfully, I'm going to be amazing between man and man. But the other things, that stuff, that's not for me. Okay, that's an important half. But one can't ignore the other half. I'm very, very scrupulous when it comes to my mitzvah observant. but I'm going to elbow people, I'm going to step on people, I'm going to push people apart. That's half. There's also the other half. Between man and between man and God. And together, that is what we need to be. That is the complete, the complete Oved Hashem.
You need both of them together? No, or is...
You need both aspects. You need both aspects. So the classic commentators point out, now, an issue that might be raised is, if we were to try to find the 10 most important things of Judaism, the 10 most important things of Judaism, to make your top 10 list, if you were writing the 10 commandments, I don't think we would come up with these 10. I think we would, drop some, put in some other ones. False testimony, okay, that's important. I would say, kashrut is something that helps us identify as Jews. I mean, there are lots of, it seems to be very, very disjoint. Right? And, I don't think many of us would say, oh, it's the 10 commandments that inspire me and guide my life. Right? Actually, Hillel, Rabbi Akiva said, the most important aspect, right? If you want to learn the entire Torah while standing on one foot, it's v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your neighbor like yourself. What you don't want done to you, don't do to someone else. That's not even on the list, right? And that was something he said. That's the whole Torah. Everything else is an explanation.
And blessing and curse. That should also be
Yeah.
on the list.
Prayer, community. I mean, there are lots of things that we would say, wow, right? That should be on the top 10, right? But they're not.
But we don't make the decision.
Right.
Hashem makes the decision.
That's 100%, right? But we
It's
do.
somewhere in there. I mean, are all those things?
Yes, there is such a teaching, okay? But yes, that everything is included in here, but it's not black and white, right?
And are the 10 of only for the Jews? I mean, are the whole world meant to be part of the 10?
Okay, so you might want to say this is universal. Is it?
The 7?
Shabbat is not universal. Shabbat is for the Jews, right? So it's not that these are the universal laws. They're not. They line up. Let's see. Number one is I am Hashem, your God. What's across from it? In the right, I am God. Right across from that. Number 6 is don't murder. No other gods. Across from that is adultery. Name in vain. Across from that is, right, stealing, which actually we say means kidnapping. Number 4 is Shabbat. Number 9 is false testimony. Number 5 is honor parents. Right? Number 10 is covet. Now, between man and God, between man and man, what problem do we have with this being between man and God? Parents, right? So it's not really man and God. We could say, yeah, we'll honor our parents, we're recognizing where we come from, take it a step further, and God. But instead of saying between man and God, let's say between man and creators. our parents are to a degree our creators. So between man and creator and between man and man. Right? Person to person, person to creators. Let's see what the Torah is doing here, what God is doing here with the Ten Commandments. There is one concept that manifests itself this way when I'm dealing with a creator, and manifests itself that way when I'm dealing with another human being. Let me give you one of them, which is a simpler one. I'll take the easy one. A simpler one, so we understand the idea. No other gods, adultery. Okay? What is that idea?
Commitment to one.
Right, faithfulness. Right, what'd you say?
The one.
Right. Being faithful. How does being faithful manifest itself between person and creator? No other gods. No other forces, in other words. Recognize God is the one. Be faithful. Right? Between man and man, between human and human, right? The most intimate relationship we have is a marriage relationship. Right? Don't break the faithfulness, the honesty, the loyalty of that relationship. So in a relationship, there needs to be this loyalty, this faithfulness. Now let's try to work on filling in the others. I am Hashem, your God. Do not murder.
Value, right?
Okay, but by God, I'm not valuing life. You're right, but let's take it a step further. You heard we've done this before. So let me just give other people just a little.
Creator. That's creator side.
On the creator side.
Yeah.
So what is that one concept that on the creator side becomes I am God? I am God. And the other side, it is don't murder.
I give and I take. Hashem gives and Hashem takes.
Okay. So good. Let's sift it down clearer. Clearer. What were you saying, Miri?
I meant the same thing as she.
Okay. Ateret?
Man is created in the image of God, and there's a spark of God within it.
Okay, good. That's a beautiful connection. But let's get that one concept, right? Yes, man is created in the image of God. Recognize that spark of God in the person. Leah, what did you want to say?
Life, basically.
Okay.
God
Authority.
God is the judge.
Okay.
Not
Right.
other man.
It's the other. Meaning I'm acknowledging who I am and acknowledging. And then, let me write that in. Acknowledging. Meaning, in the God sphere, I acknowledge. He's God. He's in control. I acknowledge, let me put the word, the other. I acknowledge the other. In the God sphere, I acknowledge He is God. He is in control. When it comes to humanity, right, the epitome of not acknowledging the existence, the importance of the other, when it's taken to a grotesque degree, what is that? Murder. Right? I don't want you to be here. I don't want you to exist. So we need to acknowledge the existence of the other. In the God realm, Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I am Hashem your God. In the human realm, acknowledge, respect the space, the existence of the other. Don't murder. So now we're starting to have a little bit of a progression over here. I acknowledge the existence of the other. Once I acknowledge the other, what must I now start to do? Build relationships. And at the essence of relationships is be faithful. No other God, no adultery. Be loyal. Be trustful. Be honest in those. Be faithful in those relationships. Name in vain. Don't steal or don't kidnap. So once there is the other, and there is a faithfulness in that relationship, there needs to be, what can we put in here there? There needs to be a trust, or there needs to be a respect for that which belongs to the other. Right? Let's put it in there, we'll discuss that. Respect the belongings. This comes to what Leah brought up a moment ago.